Day 9 of Diddy's federal trial wasn't just another headline, it was a full-blown turning point. Kid Cudi, known for his vulnerability in music but fiercely private in real life, took the stand and delivered testimony that felt ripped from a psychological thriller. He didn't just speak about his relationship with Cassie Ventura, he described a chilling chain of events that included a break-in, a torched luxury car, and a traumatized dog. The courtroom wasn't just quiet, it was frozen. What Cudi revealed was more than drama. It was a calculated campaign of intimidation. According to his sworn testimony, shortly after he and Cassie began seeing each other, strange things started happening. A home invasion, security cameras mysteriously tampered with, gifts unwrapped. And the final blow? A Porsche allegedly firebombed in what he believes was an act of revenge. This was intentional, Cudi said, staring directly at the jury. The photos of his burned-out car didn't just add shock value, they added weight to his words. This wasn't the story of a jilted lover or a celebrity feud. It was something far more personal and far more dangerous. Prosecutors positioned Cudi's testimony as a crucial piece in a broader pattern of coercion and control, linking it to Cassie's claims and other witness accounts. For years, the music industry whispered about Diddy's reach and influence. But this time, the allegations were no longer whispers. They were sworn statements under oath, with physical evidence to match. Fans watching from home reacted immediately. If this is true, Diddy isn't just problematic, he's dangerous, one tweet read, racking up thousands of shares. Reddit threads and TikTok clips broke down every word of Cudi's statement. The reaction was universal: disbelief, fear, and outrage. And as the trial continues to unfold, one thing has become crystal clear: Kid Cudi's silence is over. And with his voice, the walls around Diddy's carefully protected legacy are starting to crack wide open. Kid Cudi has always worn his heart on his sleeve. Long before the courtroom, he built a reputation as one of the few hip-hop artists unafraid to confront his demons in public. With albums like Man on the Moon, he wasn't just a rapper, he was a voice for a generation battling anxiety, addiction, and depression. But nothing could have prepared him for the chaos he'd be dragged into when his private life collided with Sean Diddy Combs' empire. What started as a quiet romance with Cassie turned into a nightmare that would haunt him for years. In 2011, Cudi testified he received a chilling phone call from Cassie in the early hours of the morning. She told him bluntly, Diddy knew. Cassie sounded stressed, panicked. She asked Cudi to pick her up immediately. Not long after that conversation, things took a disturbing turn. According to Cudi, someone broke into his home. His belongings were disturbed. His dog, usually calm, was suddenly jittery and fearful. Even more unsettling, his security cameras had reportedly been tampered with. It wasn't just a break-in, it felt like a message. But the warning didn't stop there. Days later, Cudi's luxury Porsche went up in flames. In court, Cudi described it in exacting detail. A Molotov cocktail, law enforcement believed, had been used to ignite the vehicle. Photos shown to the jury revealed a gutted interior, scorched metal, and damage that looked anything but accidental. The roof had been slashed open, likely to insert the explosive device. Cudi was clear. This was intentional. He was at his ex-girlfriend's sister's house when the fire started, 45 minutes away, ruling out any possibility it was a simple accident. Cudi's dog sitter was the first to alert him. She sent photos of the wreckage before Cudi even arrived home. The fire, he claimed, was calculated, meant to intimidate. For over a decade, the incident remained a mystery. But now, under oath, Cudi placed the blame squarely on Diddy's doorstep. And while the jury listened in stunned silence, social media exploded. "This isn't beef, this is criminal," one tweet read, gaining over 50,000 likes in a matter of hours. The breaking point came in a private meeting arranged at the Soho house. Cudi said he confronted Diddy directly. Diddy was calm, too calm. "He stood there like a Marvel villain," Cudi recalled. "He offered me water, twice. It was weird." When Cudi brought up the Porsche, Diddy reportedly smirked and said, "I don't know what you're talking about." The tension was unbearable. Cudi walked away from the conversation shaken, but with clarity. I knew in that moment I wasn't just dealing with jealousy. I was dealing with someone dangerous. For years, fans only knew the music. But now, they're seeing a side of hip-hop royalty that was carefully hidden. In one of the most damning moments of Day 9, Kid Cudi's testimony connected dots the public had never seen lined up before. Jealousy, a hidden relationship, a violent warning, and silence that stretched over a decade. What else had been covered up? And more importantly, who else had been warned with fire? George Kaplan wasn't a celebrity, but behind the scenes, he held the keys to Diddy's private empire. Hired in 2013 as an executive assistant at Combs Enterprises, Kaplan's job went far beyond scheduling and luggage. He handled private jets, managed confidential cash deliveries, and ensured every hotel Diddy stayed in was tailored to his exact demands. He wasn't just an assistant, he was a gatekeeper. And now, he's become one of the trial's most revealing witnesses. Kaplan was in his 20s when he entered Diddy's world. Wide-eyed, driven, and eager to succeed, he viewed the opportunity as life-changing. "This was a god among men," he said during testimony. Working for Diddy wasn't just a job, it was an invitation into the inner circle of power. But what began as admiration quickly turned into silent complicity. Because the higher Kaplan climbed, the more disturbing the requests became. In one of the trial's most chilling moments, Kaplan recalled being on a private jet in 2015. He heard glass shatter. When he turned around, he saw Cassie Ventura lying on her back, legs up in defense, as Diddy stood over her holding a whiskey glass. Moments later, Diddy asked him to retrieve makeup and concealer to cover the bruises on Cassie's face. Kaplan followed orders. He paid for everything with the company credit card, and he said nothing. But that wasn't the only time. Kaplan described another incident at Diddy's Miami mansion. Cassie, visibly shaken, was sitting on the bed crying with her head in her hands. Diddy summoned Kaplan through the intercom, directing him to purchase witch hazel and over-the-counter swelling creams. Again, Kaplan followed instructions. Again, he used the corporate card. "It became routine," he told the court. "Clean up, patch up, move on." Kaplan's testimony revealed a pattern. Alleged violence followed by immediate concealment. He wasn't just managing travel, he was, by his own admission, managing damage control. "I bought the creams, I cleaned up the hotel rooms, I made sure there were no traces left behind." These tasks weren't written into his job description, but they were expected, implied in the culture of silence that surrounded Combs Enterprises. He also described other troubling moments. In one, Diddy allegedly threw green apples, decorative or possibly real, at another girlfriend, Gina Huyn. Kaplan testified that the apples were hurled with alarming force, and Gina shielded herself as she backed away in fear. Still, Kaplan didn't intervene. "I was a young kid just trying to make it in entertainment," he said, his voice tense. The courtroom was quiet. Everyone listening understood what that meant. Survival required silence. Kaplan's emotional conflict became a central point of his testimony. He admitted that even after leaving the company in late 2015, he kept in contact with Diddy. He still sent him birthday wishes, still spoke positively of him in public. "It's complicated," Kaplan said. "I liked him. I learned from him. But I couldn't keep covering up what I saw." His conscience eventually became louder than the perks of proximity to power. Thanks to an immunity deal, Kaplan was finally able to share the full story. He made it clear. This wasn't about revenge or personal bitterness. This was about truth. "I carried secrets I didn't want to carry anymore," he said. And as he stepped down from the witness stand, it was clear his testimony didn't just reveal Diddy's alleged crimes, it shattered the illusion that loyalty must come at the cost of integrity. What makes George Kaplan's testimony so powerful isn't just what he witnessed, it's the emotional toll it clearly took on him. By the time he left Combs Enterprises in 2015, Kaplan wasn't just stepping away from a job. He was escaping a system he believed was built on silence, protection, and fear. "I didn't want to be part of a system that covered up violence," he told the court. It was a damning statement, one that landed like a gut punch in the courtroom. Kaplan's breaking point came after witnessing what he described as one incident too many. The moment involved Diddy allegedly throwing green apples with alarming force at another girlfriend, Gina Huyn. Kaplan saw her trying to shield herself with her arms, visibly shaken. The mood inside the house had turned toxic. It wasn't an argument, it was rage. And once again, Kaplan said nothing. But inside, something had shifted. He finally confided in Christina Courtroom, Diddy's longtime chief of staff and one of the most trusted figures inside the empire. Kaplan told her everything about the jet incident, the bruises on Cassie, the violent outburst with Gina. Courtroom's response? She said she was disappointed, Kaplan recalled. But that was it. No report filed, no action taken. Just another buried conversation in a culture designed to protect the brand at all costs. That moment changed everything for Kaplan. He realized then that silence wasn't just expected, it was enforced through indifference. She didn't ask questions. She didn't follow up. I knew right then. I had to get out, Kaplan testified. In September 2015, he gave notice. A few months later, he was gone. Officially, he told Diddy it was to care for his father, who was battling cancer. But privately, it was so much more than that. Kaplan's exit wasn't loud or dramatic. He slipped away quietly. But even after leaving, he couldn't let go completely. He stayed in contact with Diddy for years, exchanging birthday messages, attending occasional gatherings. It was a relationship he described as complicated. As he put it, I admired him. I learned so much from him, but I also watched things I couldn't unsee. This inner conflict was written all over Kaplan's testimony. He wasn't angry, he wasn't vengeful, he was haunted. I carried secrets I didn't want to carry, he said, his voice heavy with regret. For years, he'd lived with the guilt of being a silent participant, someone who enabled the illusion of control, power, and perfection from behind the scenes. Kaplan's admission of guilt wasn't just about catharsis, it was about accountability. In the courtroom, he didn't try to paint himself as a hero. He admitted he turned a blind eye to disturbing moments, that he complied, that he kept quiet. But the trial gave him something he hadn't had in years, permission to finally speak. His testimony left the courtroom unsettled, because if someone as close, trusted, and loyal as George Kaplan could walk away and still feel emotionally shackled by what he knew, what did that say about the culture surrounding Diddy? And how many others were still inside, choosing silence over truth? George Kaplan didn't take the stand willingly. He didn't volunteer this information out of spite or revenge. In fact, he tried not to speak at all. Initially, Kaplan invoked his Fifth Amendment right to avoid self-incrimination, signaling just how serious his knowledge might be. That move alone hinted that what he knew could implicate not only Diddy, but potentially himself. Prosecutors responded swiftly, with a legal tactic designed to break the silence. They offered Kaplan immunity. It was a calculated move. The deal meant that any testimony he gave couldn't be used to prosecute him, as long as he told the truth. But if he lied, if even one word didn't hold up, he could still face charges for perjury. The stakes were high. But for the first time, Kaplan had legal protection strong enough to shield him from the empire he once served. Once under immunity, Kaplan began to open up. He described in vivid detail how Diddy operated behind closed doors, particularly in hotel rooms across New York, Los Angeles, and Miami. These weren't ordinary five-star bookings. They were highly controlled environments. Diddy's preferences weren't about luxury, they were about manipulation and secrecy. According to Kaplan, hotel staff were given strict instructions: set the room temperature to 75 degrees, disable air conditioning, spray air freshener constantly, have baby oil stocked in excess, and after each stay, mark the room out of order for deep cleaning. It was about more than comfort, Kaplan said. It was about control, about creating a vibe. His testimony was backed by Frederick Zemmour, the general manager at the L'Ermitage Hotel in Beverly Hills. Zemmour confirmed that Diddy used aliases like Jackie Star when booking rooms. He also verified that his staff were told to prepare rooms with high heat and scented sprays and to expect damages. Candle wax on the carpet, oil-stained linens, furniture sometimes broken. Every visit cost us more than just standard cleaning, he testified. In fact, Zamir revealed that Diddy's profile in their system had a specific billing note, an automatic $1,000 damage fee added every time he stayed. It wasn't optional, it was expected. And while Diddy's legal team argued that these were just signs of a high-maintenance guest, prosecutors made it clear. They saw it as evidence of repeat behavior, ritualistic, secretive, and deliberately kept off the record. Kaplan also revealed how he was instructed to clean up after these hotel stays himself. "I'd go in after and make sure nothing was left behind. No personal items, no evidence. I'd even make sure the candles were thrown out." It wasn't just about discretion, it was about erasure. He said he began to understand that his job was as much about containment as it was about coordination. Kaplan's immunity unlocked the inner workings of a lifestyle few outside Combs' circle had ever witnessed. What the jury heard wasn't just about candle wax or room service. It was about the blueprint of how abuse could allegedly be masked under wealth, charisma, and celebrity. And the message was clear. When power protects itself, the truth becomes a casualty, unless someone is finally willing to speak. When Mila Morales stepped into the courtroom, the energy shifted. She wasn't a disgruntled employee or a former insider with legal immunity. She was a respected celebrity makeup artist with a powerful reputation in the industry, someone who had worked with names like Rihanna, Jennifer Lopez, and of course Cassie Ventura. But what made her testimony so impactful wasn't her resume. It was the quiet horror of what she had witnessed behind closed doors. Morales began working with Cassie in the late 2000s. At the time, Cassie was still emerging as an artist, having just signed with Bad Boy Records under Diddy's mentorship. Young and impressionable, Cassie quickly became romantically involved with her much older boss. Morales, who was a few years older, said she often felt more like a big sister than a makeup artist. "She didn't have anyone else in LA," she testified. "I became that person for her." The incident that Morales detailed happened during the 2010 Grammy Awards weekend, a glamorous, high-stakes time for anyone in entertainment. But behind the glitz, things took a terrifying turn. Morales said she had fallen asleep in a hotel room after working a long day prepping Cassie for events. Suddenly, she was jolted awake by screaming and yelling. "It wasn't a fight," she told the jury. "It was chaos." Moments later, Cassie walked into the room. Her eye was swollen. There were visible lumps forming on her forehead. Morales said she didn't hesitate. She packed Cassie's things and took her straight to her own home. There, she called a doctor friend to examine the injuries. He checked her ribs, her stomach, her face. He said she should go to the emergency room, Morales recalled. But Cassie refused. "She was scared," Morales said. "And honestly, so was I. At no point were police contacted." Morales explained that fear overpowered reason. "This was Sean Combs. We were nobodies compared to him. We didn't know what he could do, or who he could reach." Her voice cracked as she spoke, and several jurors were visibly moved. Morales wasn't just a witness, she was a protector who'd been living with this secret for over a decade. Prosecutors asked Morales if she'd ever spoken publicly about the incident. She confirmed that she gave interviews to CNN and Extra, including a now-archived segment with Don Lemon. In those interviews, she shared details of what she saw, but said she was never paid. "I didn't want money," she told the court. "I wanted people to know the truth. I wanted someone to believe her." The defense tried to discredit her by suggesting she sought attention or profit. They brought up a $1,000 licensing fee she received when CNN used photos from the incident, including images of Cassie, Mila, and Kim Porter in the early 2000s. But Morales held firm. "I didn't sell a story. I submitted evidence," she said. Those photos weren't gossip, they were documentation. Her relationship with Cassie wasn't just professional. Morales said they spent holidays together, worked closely on music video sets, and bonded over their shared experiences as women in a male-dominated industry. "I watched her try to leave more than once," Morales said, "but she always got pulled back in." The implication was clear. Cassie didn't stay because she wanted to. She stayed because she was trapped. As Morales' testimony continued, the prosecution used her statements to reinforce a pattern: abuse, followed by silence, physical injuries concealed by makeup, emotional wounds hidden beneath smiles on red carpets. Cassie's public image had always been tightly controlled, but behind the scenes, Morales said, she was unraveling. She lived with a kind of fear you could feel even when she wasn't speaking, she testified. When she stepped down from the witness stand, the courtroom was stunned. There were no theatrics, no breakdowns, just a quiet, controlled woman sharing what she had hidden for years. Morales had nothing to gain from coming forward, except peace. Her testimony didn't just support Cassie's claims, it humanized them, and it forced the courtroom and the public to confront the darker truth behind the beauty and success so many had admired from afar. To the public, Sean Combs lived a life of unparalleled luxury, private jets, sprawling mansions, five-star hotel suites across the world. But inside the courtroom, those luxury stays revealed something far more unsettling. Testimony from hotel staff and insiders painted a picture not of decadence, but of carefully managed secrecy. And no one understood that better than Frederick Zamora, general manager at the prestigious L'Hermitage Hotel in Beverly Hills. Zamora had seen high-profile guests before. Celebrities came and went with their entourages, assistants, and unusual preferences. But Diddy was different. According to internal records presented in court, Diddy had been a client at the hotel for years, sometimes booking under his name, other times using aliases like Jackie Star. But the requests that came with each stay raised eyebrows, even in an industry known for discretion. The court was shown detailed notes from Diddy's hotel profiles. Among the requests, rooms must be set to 75 degrees, air conditioning disabled completely, and staff instructed to spray air freshener frequently down the hallway leading to his suite. There was always a note to stock excessive amounts of baby oil, Zamir testified, and when he checked out, we were told to mark the room as out of order for deep cleaning. It wasn't just about scent or temperature, it was about transforming the space, creating an environment where Diddy could allegedly control every variable, right down to the mood of the room. Staff reported melted candle wax on carpets, damaged bedding, and furniture in disarray. This wasn't the occasional spill or mess, Zamora said. It was consistent, every time. The damage wasn't cheap either. According to billing records, a $1,000 surcharge was automatically added to his reservations to cover the anticipated destruction. It had become standard protocol. No one else had a damage fee like that attached to their file, Zamir told the court. It was unique to Mr. Combs. Prosecutors used these details to build a narrative. This wasn't eccentricity, it was a method, a way to keep whatever happened in those rooms isolated, undocumented, and unrecoverable. Combined with Kaplan's testimony about hotel room setups and cleanups, the prosecution argued that Diddy had created a system that shielded him from scrutiny, no matter where he was in the world. It was also revealed that Diddy's team would sometimes request the hotel disable cameras in hallways or redirect them away from his suite. Zamir admitted that while the hotel never fully honored that request, it was alarming to receive it in the first place. Most guests want more security. He wanted less visibility, Zamir noted. Beyond the logistics, what struck many in the courtroom was the consistency of these demands over years. From 2011 through 2018, the behavior didn't shift. The air temperature stayed the same, the oil usage didn't waver. The secrecy remained absolute. This wasn't just preference, it was protocol. And prosecutors made sure the jury understood that. Online, users began digging through old celebrity interviews and social media posts. A few former employees of other hotels even began sharing eerily similar stories anonymously. I wasn't surprised, one claimed on Reddit. We all knew certain guests came with warning labels. Diddy was one of them. The trial had cracked open a world many assumed was off limits, the reality of what luxury truly concealed. By the time Zamora left the witness stand, the jury had seen enough to connect the dots. Lavish hotel rooms weren't just Diddy's playground, they were his fortress, carefully curated, fully controlled, and built on a loyalty that required silence from everyone involved. But in this courtroom, that silence was finally beginning to break. As the courtroom shifted from emotional testimony to hard evidence, the prosecution brought in one final witness for the day, Special Agent Josh Croft of Homeland Security. Croft isn't a celebrity or insider. He's a digital forensics expert trained to pull secrets from devices most people believe are long erased. And what he uncovered from Cassie Ventura's old laptop stunned the courtroom and widened the scope of the entire investigation. The device in question? A white-cased MacBook Pro from around 2010-2011. According to Croft, the laptop had been reset to factory settings, but that didn't stop his team. Even when files are deleted, fragments remain, Croft explained to the jury. There are ways to extract information from the hard drive's unallocated space, where deleted content still exists in pieces. Using forensic tools like TX1 and Digital Collector, Croft recovered partial iTunes backups, internal messages, cached data, and remnants of documents that had never been fully wiped. Some of the recovered material aligned with Cassie's known career timeline, but one detail stood out: a mysterious profile listed under the alias Frank Black. The profile wasn't tied to any known social media, and prosecutors hinted that it may have been used to store or transfer sensitive files without raising suspicion. Croft couldn't confirm who created the profile, but he stated clearly, it wasn't just a system user, it appeared to be organized, intentionally separate from her primary login. That raised questions. Was it created to conceal information? And if so, by who? Defense attorneys attempted to discredit the findings by suggesting that the recovered data was too fragmented to be reliable. But Croft pushed back. We don't base conclusions on fragments alone. We validate through multiple points: metadata, timestamps, file origins. The digital chain tells a story, even if the user tries to erase it. The most damning part came when Croft confirmed that the laptop had synced with multiple devices in the early 2010s, including a burner phone. According to prosecutors, this phone had been mentioned in earlier testimony from Kid Cudi, who said Cassie once told him she had given Diddy his home address. The implication? The communications during key periods in the timeline may have been routed through disposable, untraceable phones. While Croft emphasized that no explicit photos or illegal materials were found on the device, the metadata alone painted a disturbing picture. Documents had been edited, saved, and then deleted in tight windows of time, often hours before Cassie made major public appearances or after alleged incidents, like the 2010 Grammy weekend Morales described. Prosecutors argued that this was more than coincidence, it was strategy. What made this moment in the trial so significant was that it finally shifted some focus from testimony to tangible evidence. Jury members, up to that point, had been hearing emotional recollections and verbal accounts. But Croft's findings gave them something to hold on to: digital footprints that couldn't cry, flinch, or forget. In the words of one court reporter, it was like watching a ghost speak through data. The defense tried to argue that everything retrieved was circumstantial, that unless there were explicit messages or direct admissions, nothing was definitive. But as prosecutors reminded the court, this isn't about one smoking gun. It's about the cumulative weight of patterns, emotional abuse, control, and concealment that extended from hotels to hard drives. And with that, Croft stepped down. His quiet, methodical testimony didn't deliver shock value the way Kid Cudi or Mila Morales did, but it delivered something far more dangerous: proof that no amount of power can fully erase the past. The jury didn't just see old files. They saw a digital trail of control, manipulation, and secrets buried deep. Until now. Day 9 of the Diddy trial wasn't just another step in a long legal process, it was a full-blown unraveling of an empire. Witness after witness tore into the carefully constructed image Sean Combs has maintained for decades. From Kid Cudi's emotional account of a firebombed car to George Kaplan's confession of covering bruises with corporate credit cards, the prosecution presented a mosaic of stories that all pointed in one direction: a deeply coordinated pattern of abuse, secrecy, and control. What made this day even more devastating was the credibility behind each voice. These weren't anonymous internet claims. These were people who had been in Diddy's inner circle, former employees, longtime collaborators, even romantic partners, and each one of them painted a picture of a man who allegedly used fear, wealth, and silence as weapons. Cassie Ventura may have started the conversation, but she's no longer the only one carrying the truth. Her allies are stepping forward, and they're no longer afraid. With LAPD and LAFD witnesses expected to take the stand next, the focus will likely shift toward law enforcement's response, or lack thereof, during key moments in the timeline. And if prosecutors can prove a coordinated cover-up, this case could explode into something far bigger than civil accusations. Legal experts are already speculating that a RICO charge may be on the table, opening the door to federal consequences for Combs and possibly others within his business network. As one viral tweet put it, "This isn't just a trial, it's an autopsy of celebrity power." The music industry is watching, so is the world, and as more receipts, voices, and evidence come to light, the myth of untouchability is crumbling in real time. Subscribe now, hit the like button, and turn on notifications, because what happens next might not just change the courtroom, it could change the culture.